We are seeing, again, live pictures right now on the Golden Gate Bridge of more arrests being made. And it looks like these are some people that are dispersed amongst the traffic backup. So we saw the large banner unfurled at the beginning of the traffic backup, and that had been there since about 8 o'clock. Now we're seeing police dealing with some of the people that were farther back within the backup. So not knowing if they were a part of the initial protest or if this was one of the strategies. And that is something that our security expert, Jeff Harp, had mentioned, to continue the blockade, getting those vehicles just parked there and not able to move in the middle of the freeway could certainly be a part of the strategy here. Now, Jeff, we have you back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Can we talk a little bit about, we know this is part of a much larger protest, this A15 protest, now we're hearing about it, worldwide economic blockade that pro-Palestinian demonstrators are trying to use to call attention to what's going on in Gaza. Do you think that authorities could have seen this coming? So I guess that's my first question, then I'll ask the second question after.
Well, yeah, so that's a really good question. There's methodology in place that law enforcement uses to sort of anticipate when this sort of activity occurs. The problem is a lot of it's just sort of white noise and chatter. You really never know, if it's going to actually occur. Certainly there's public posts on social media that allows people to see things publicly. And maybe they could have anticipated this, but my guess is there's a lot of talk out there, and when it really comes down to deploying resources, it's tough to make that call.
Yeah, okay. What could they have done, potentially, to have prevented this, or nothing?
Well, there's really not much they could do to prevent it. If they were to see something like this advertised on social media, looking at some of those platforms, you can certainly try to anticipate a better way to allow these protests to take place in an area on the bridge that doesn't disrupt traffic so badly.
It's interesting when when you're looking at this. This is it's sort of a very slow-moving situation, I guess, if we can call it that, where there's a lot of talking, a lot of standing, a lot of cars staying in one spot. I guess the difference between this and something that you would call more chaotic, as far as how police are dealing with this methodically.
Well, and you don't want to inflame the situation. Obviously, there's some very hard and strong feelings about what's going on and what they're protesting about. And what you don't want to do is you don't want to inflame that and cause the situation to become violent. You're sort of in a dangerous place. You're on a bridge over the bay. I mean,
right.
That's not, you're not standing on the street somewhere. That's really a pretty dangerous place to be. So, they don't want to make this any worse than it already is. And I'm quite certain when you're talking about arrests further down the line, you've got some really irritated people sitting in traffic there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes, that is what we're seeing. We initially saw the protesters in front of all the vehicles, and now we're seeing officers sort of dribbling down farther down the line. And so, right, are those protesters as well, or are those people that are just at their wits' end, having been stuck on the bridge for as long as they have been? Talking about the larger protest here, this A15, April 15th, obviously, they're trying to call it an economic blockade. When it comes to other cities, to your point, we're talking about the Golden Gate Bridge. Not only is this a national landmark, it's also very dangerous when it comes to being over the bay, and the fact that there's no way on or off except for driving in either direction. The Bay Area, the risks that we have as opposed to some of the other places like your Philadelphia or your Chicago and where you might be seeing protests, it's a lot more consequential here.
It is, and that's another really good point. You think about the cities who, are surrounded by water, us being one. Of course, there's others in the nation that have sort of these First Amendment activities going on. The bridges are always a problem. They can be a security concern. Obviously, they're a safety concern, and they're also a way for protesters to really stop all commerce at one point.
Yeah, which is a powerful tool that people have. And, for the average driver, if you're thinking, oh, I live in Marin and I have a flight to catch tomorrow, at some point, people sort of lose confidence in their ability to get around.
Well, and that's true. I actually was parked next to somebody that was trying to get to SFO, and she was beside herself. I mean, she was
Yeah.
trying to get to see a sick family member, and she was going to miss her flight, and Lord knows when she was going to be able to get on her next flight. So it just really is bad.
It really is. And, these protesters are trying to call attention to their cause. But when you think of a lot of these people who are innocent, and again, I have no control over U.S. policy. I'm not responsible directly for what's happening in Gaza. But you're just innocent victims.
Yeah, and I obviously talk to a lot of people who have a lot of different points of view, and I oftentimes say, hey, look, if you want to really express your opinion, go out and vote, talk to your legislators. That's where it happens.
When it comes to these protesters trying to get their message out there, excuse me, um, are there other ways that you would recommend them doing a large-scale demonstration that would not affect people that have nothing to do with the situation?
Well, coming from the protesters' perspective, they get the most bang for the buck when they do something like this. Look at all the attention they've gotten. And this is going to be spread. These pictures of the Golden Gate Bridge have, I've had people text me from the East Coast going, wow, look at your bridge now. And so they get a lot of bang for the buck by standing on the bridge and shutting it down.
Now, when you hear from, say, buddies, I'm sure that you're tight in this security community around the nation because that is your expertise. Do they see concerns? Is it, they see something like this and say, wow, this is happening on the Golden Gate Bridge. That's scary.
Yeah, they do. And they actually said, I hope there's nothing else planned that's going on right now in the midst of this. So that's what goes through guys like me, like our minds, to think that way, that this could be a precursor to something else.
Right. And then you see the evolution of these protests. And like we were talking about earlier, the Bay Bridge protest during APEC late last year, that disrupted traffic for many hours. It did get attention, but it turned a lot of people off when it comes to that method of protesting and upsets people in the other direction. So in some ways it does call attention to it, but does it actually help their cause?
Yeah, and I'll guarantee you there's some people sitting in that traffic that support their ideas of what they're protesting about, but at this point in time, they're not real happy about it.
All right. Anything else, any other insight that we haven't talked about that you'd like to share with our viewers as you're looking at the situation unfolding as we speak?
No, I think the smart thing to do today is try to hunker down at home, and who knows what will happen in the afternoon rush hour.
Yeah, and I guess if I can ask just in closing, and I believe we're going to be speaking with you again at noon because we're continuing our live coverage, and we'll be giving an in-depth look at all of this coming up at the top of the hour. But if you can just talk about the general security situation, and I know you touched on some of this, of the Bay Area. We only have certain ways in and out of a city like San Francisco. And when you see something like this, it just makes people nervous.
It does, and this has been a big thought. When we have Super Bowl 50 here and all the other big events that we have in the Bay Area, APEC and everything else, these are sort of like the most important and likely topics that security experts and panelists talk about is what happens if, right? There's one way into the Bay Area from the North Bay. What if the two bridges are shut down? Then you only can get in through the South Bay. That's, it makes this city very unique in that manner, and it certainly makes for a very, very serious security situation if something were to happen. Or natural disaster. It's all in the planning that we talk about with earthquakes, too.
Right. Okay, so I know it's still unfolding, but do you see any obvious lessons that could be learned at this point?
Well, I'm sure the powers in charge of CHP and everybody else, Bridge Authority, I do know that they would like to see a more proactive approach to how they sort of, I don't want to say monitor these activities, but get some sort of a heads up so they can try to preemptively strike and at least sit down and allow these protests to happen in a manner and location on the bridge that allows for commerce to continue to flow.
Right, because we could have seen this coming. It looks like this was part of a nationwide or even worldwide protest, as it's called, the 815, and it's called a worldwide economic blockade that is coming from the organizers, and this is just one arm of the protest that we are seeing happening in cities all around the country.